Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hammer Territory podcast. This is episode 349. My name is Brad Rowland, coming to you on a Sunday. We're getting closer and closer to Atlanta Braves baseball. It is opening week, and I'm joined, as almost always, by Scott Coleman. Scott, how are you in the midst of March Madness?
Brad, I am doing well. It is always good to see you, and we have made it. This was a long off season. Now, it felt like November and December went pretty fast, probably because the Braves were very active in those months. But man alive, I think the Braves signed Tyler Kinley like a week into the new year, and it has been either very quiet or all bad news for the Atlanta Braves since then, but we have finally made it. It is opening week. Baseball officially begins on Wednesday of this week, and the Braves get going on Friday. It's a good time to be a Braves fan.
It really is, and within the next 5 days, as we're recording this, 4 days if you're listening to it, the Braves will have a game that counts. And Scott, because it's finally opening week, let us mix it up, engineered by Fastenal. All right, Scott, we have gotten some information we were kind of waiting for and knew it was going to happen eventually. And stuff like opening day starter, stuff like probables for the first series of the season. And one of them is not a surprise. Let's just say Chris Sale as the opening day starter was always going to happen unless he was unavailable to pitch. But that was made official this week, and it's his 7th time ever doing this. He has been, he's already a kind of French Hall of Fame player, and he's remarkable. So it's like a warm blanket to have Chris Sale on the mound on Friday. At least for me, I feel pretty good about that. Everything after that, we'll see. But Chris Sale being the opening day starter is encouraging and now official.
We will see, I think, is the official motto of the Atlanta Braves starting rotation for 2026. We will see. But as long as Chris Sale is healthy, we know this guy is going to be fantastic on the mound. And we saw it last year. After winning Cy Young in 2024, I think if Chris doesn't lay out and dive for that baseball against the Mets and doesn't break his ribs, he might have won Cy Young in back-to-back years. And God willing, let's hope for another 30 starts and 190 innings from Sale this year. It sure feels like the Braves are going to need him to stay healthy if they have any chance at staying atop the NL East and making a deep run into the postseason. And that's going to start on Friday. And a great recognition, a great honor for a very likely future Hall of Famer in Chris Sale. I believe they said it's his 7th opening day assignment, which is really impressive, just the longevity of his career. And hopefully Sale's able to go out there against a pretty decent Kansas City Royals team and give the Braves some good innings. And let's get a win and get this season on a better foot.
Yeah, I think you're right. Oftentimes, I think because of all the things that, as you alluded to earlier, have kind of gone wrong in recent months, weeks, etc. for the Braves, it's almost not overlooked that Chris Sale has been so good, but he has been like full stop a top 5 pitcher in baseball, and probably even better than that since the moment he joined the Braves. We're talking about a guy with a 2.46 ERA with the Braves, a 2.33 FIP with the Braves, which is even arguably more impressive than the ERA. He's been just ridiculous when he's been out there, and knock on all the wood, I suppose. But Chris Sale, I feel very, very good about on Friday night when the Braves actually get going in earnest. The rest of the first weekend against the aforementioned Kansas City Royals will be filled by, at least for now, the probables. And probable is an important word because probable does not mean definite, and that'll be the case all season long. The Braves and other teams announce their probable starters. They're not definite starters, but as of today, Sunday as we record this, Ronald Lopez is going to get the ball in Game 2 for the Braves on Saturday, and Spencer Strider will have the ball in Game 3 for the Braves on Sunday. Of note, as we record this on Sunday, Ronaldo's velocity was, let's just say, not encouraging in his final spring training outing. It drew a lot of attention in the way that you don't want to draw attention at the end of spring. I am unaware of any post-game comments, and I've been looking. Of course, we're not in Florida, so we were not there on site. And I'm pretty good, I feel like, at media monitoring. I don't know if anybody was there of the beat guys that talked to Ronaldo post-start. But what did you make from afar, seeing the numbers, seeing the outing? Are you as afraid as some Braves fans are right now, seeing that Ronaldo was sitting 89 with his fastball? Not what you want to see in late March.
No, not what you want to see for a guy who is making his final tune-up of the spring training session. And across the board, Ronaldo's velocity was down. Now, I will say it was interesting. So on one hand, the fact that Ronaldo's velo was way down is obviously a concern. no matter what the circumstance or situation, if your fastball is down 5 to 6 miles an hour, that is never an encouraging sign. That being said, the Braves had Ronaldo throw 80 pitches on the dot on Sunday afternoon. And the Braves aren't, it's not like they don't have access to the radar gun readings in the dugout. So if you want to try to be positive and optimistic, maybe there was some like, hey, Ronaldo, get your work in, but go like 75% out there. We don't need you wearing yourself down before a start in 6 days from now. But I mean, I can't sit here in good conscience and spin this as a positive as, well, actually, it's a good thing your second starter of the year is throwing way softer than he usually does, especially a year removed from a shoulder surgery that cost him basically the entire year.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and that's the other thing about this. It'd be one thing if he was coming off of a healthy season or a healthy winter and all systems go, but he famously just hasn't really pitched in a year and a half. I mean, he threw one game last season early in the year, and that was it. So we'll see. But I'm with you. Like striking out 1 out of 19 batters is also concerning. Like in a different way, they're related. Obviously, it's a lot harder to miss bats when you're throwing 89 as opposed to 95. But I was already a little bit wary of Ronaldo, not totally out or anything, but I would love to hear an explanation, even if it was spin. And we're not going to do that. You and I, we just agreed to that on this podcast. I would love to hear someone from the Braves say, we didn't want Ronaldo to throw hard in his last outing. And unless we hear that, and I haven't seen it yet as we record this, I am a little bit afraid. And look, I'm not predicting this to happen, but it would no longer surprise me if we got a Ronaldo hits the IL announcement between now and Saturday. I mean, maybe he won't, but when you see, I'm kind of trained. Maybe this is a bad thing. Maybe I'm trying to I'm being overreactionary, and I'm using the word might on purpose. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm just kind of trained to say, hey, if a guy's 6 miles an hour down on his fastball, I'm like, all right, is he hurt or what's going on? And
yeah,
there's an or in there, but there's also the other side of the or. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And let's cross our fingers and hope for the best with Ronaldo. And if he does make that scheduled start on Saturday, you can bet that every single eyeball at Truist Park is going to be on that radar gun. And if he's mid 90s, I don't think anyone's going to be concerned because that's a great sign. And maybe this was a, hey, get your work in, but don't exude yourself. Let's just throw 80 pitches and we'll move on to the regular season. But that also just feels, borderline foolish to me. We'll timestamp it again. It's about 7 o'clock Eastern on Sunday night here as we are recording. So maybe there's new news that comes out in the next day or so as folks are listening. But yeah, whenever, as word was making its way around Braves Twitter on Sunday that Ronaldo was throwing 5 to 7 miles an hour less than what he usually does, everybody was concerned. And we'll just hope, Brad. Shoulder injuries are a scary thing for pitchers, and this was the absolute last thing anybody wanted to see less than a week away from opening day.
Right. And just to head this off, earlier in the month, we did a segment or two about Strider's velocity being down. And that was the difference between those two things, at least in my view, and you don't have to agree with me, Scott, but was that was early in the spring. And it's a more natural progression to say a guy's ramping up. And Spencer very immediately after was like, I was not trying to throw max effort in this start. And look, you don't have to be excited about that. And I don't think we were, but at least there was an explanation. It was still early. What the most troubling part about this for me was it was the last outing of spring.
Yeah.
And you're right. Maybe it is a situation where they wanted him to keep it, kind of take it easy. But what's the point of throwing 80 pitches if you're not throwing your normal 80 pitches? You know what I mean? Like that's kind of my mindset. And look, I'm not an expert on pitching mechanics or pitching injuries or dirt. That might just be crazy. But it's kind of counterintuitive to me. It's like, okay, we want you to hit a benchmark of pitches. Cool. But if you're not throwing the way you're going to throw in a major league game, what does that actually give you other than 80 pitches to look at, I guess? I don't know.
Yeah. No, there's been, I guess, if you're looking for positives on the pitching side, Chris Sale looks great. Didier Fuentes, who we're going to talk about, looks great and is going to be on the opening day roster. J.R. Ritchie had a good spring. And Grant Holmes, who, of course, also had an elbow injury last year, looks really good and looks mostly healthy. But man alive, Spencer Strider spent most of his spring pitching on the backfields. We saw Ronaldo Lopez this afternoon with decreased velocity. They lose Schwallenbach. They lose Waldrop. Like, The games have not even begun. We have 6 months to go, and we are already hanging on for dear life with the health of the pitching staff.
And I promise everyone on this pod, we will not do our 17th edition of Should They Have Signed Someone this winter. We are on record about that. If you want to know what we think, they should have signed somebody or traded for somebody. But old news now. Here we are on March 22nd. And you mentioned Strider. We've heard, I don't know about you, I've heard a little bit of good news about Strider, like little under the radar things about Striders, like velocity being kind of not 99 again, but like in a more normal place on the backfields. That's the backfields. So I don't know. I don't know if that's true. People reach out to us unprompted sometimes and say, hey, I heard this, saw this, whatever. Thanks. We appreciate that. Keep it coming. But I wasn't there. So I don't know if that happened, but hey, I hope you're right. I hope he was throwing mid 90s again. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be great. And similarly, assuming that Spencer Strider does indeed make the start on Sunday in the series finale against Kansas City, all eyes will be on the radar gun. And also just the movement and crispness of Spencer's pitches. The fastball is one thing, but that slider was such a devastating pitch a couple of years ago when Spencer was really humming. How does that look? Is he still throwing the curveball? Is he working in a changeup or anything like that? Like, we're going to see. We are holding on for dear life with this pitching staff, and hopefully in a week, maybe some of these velocity-related concerns are put to bed, but that feels like just a pure wish at this point.
It does, and we will talk about this a little bit more later on this week, but just to kind of set the stage for the week ahead, the Braves had their final two exhibition games on Monday. It's a road game against the Pirates. Then Tuesday is the finale in Northport against the Rays. And then they come back to Atlanta. They are off Wednesday and Thursday. In fact, the baseball opener is Wednesday night on Netflix, which is interesting. Yankees, Giants, and then 22 teams are playing on Thursday. The Braves are not one of those 22 teams, so we have to wait a little bit longer. And then, of course, the well-discussed 13 consecutive days that we'll talk about more on this podcast later on. But they face lefty Cole Reagan's opening day for the Royals. That'll be a nice little test, and we'll have you covered throughout the process, including this week and into the season. One more note here on our friends at Fastenal, because this podcast is engineered by Fastenal. Fastenal, industrial supplies, innovative solutions. If you want to learn more, visit fastenal.com.
Hey, it might be time to have a heart-to-heart with your phone and be like, I love you, but you cost too much.
Yeah, I'm not paying this much anymore. That's it. I mean, why would I go more than $15 a month? Mint Mobile can give that to me, and I get all the same coverage.
Exactly, and you don't have to deal with the crazy bogus fees or free perks that actually end up costing more. Mint Mobile plans for premium wireless start at just $15 a month. And all plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. If you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/TERRITORY. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month 5 gigabyte plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
Okay, Scott, let us discuss Didier Fuentes, who you already noted. That was probably the most fun news of the last couple days for the Braves. The 20-year-old big-time arm. He's had a just ridiculously great spring, and it started to leak out over the weekend, even made national news. Jeff Passan, your friend and nemesis, Jeff Passan, reported on Twitter, which is not normally what you would see for like a fringy, not fringy, but like not like a main huge piece of news to have that. But Fuentes is going to be on the opening day roster. And the more local angle is that Mark Bowman has been reporting, I'm sure he's been told this directly by the team, that the plan has been to have him work out of the bullpen. He's like the long man coming into the season. And then apparently the plan is Didier will go back to Gwinnett to work as a starter. In fact, there's a quote from Walt Weiss that Bowman had in his story about how Didier can, quote, protect the Braves through those 13 straight days because the bullpen, this is a Weiss quote again, will be feeling the brunt of that challenging stretch, and he can give them some length. So no surprises as far as him being on the team because of how good he was in spring. But I have to be honest with you, Scott, if you told me, I don't know, 3 weeks ago that Didier would break camp with the Braves, I would have been surprised. I wouldn't have fallen out of my chair, but I would have been surprised. And here we are. He was great and he earned it.
That's what happens, I guess, when in spring training you throw collectively pretty close to a perfect game. is what Didier did across 4 appearances, a ton of strikeouts, a ton in swing and miss. Nobody could hit his fastball. And he's worked in this like sweeper slider pitch that is just nasty and is getting a ton of swing and miss as well. I think with Didier, the big key to him being really successful this year is, does he have a third reliable pitch that he can go to, especially a second and third time through an order once guys have seen him a little bit more. But what a great story. And we saw firsthand at 20 years old, Didier was just not ready for the major leagues. There's no shame in that. Last summer starts, I mean, the Braves called Didier up out of just absolute necessity. And he was not ready. But that's not a knock on a kid, because guess what? Very few 19 and 20-year-olds are ready for the major leagues unless you are like a one-of-one generational talent, especially on the pitching side. So it's really encouraging. Let's hope that Didier can make an impact this year. The Braves are really going to need to lean on him and lean on J.R. Ritchie and some of the other promising pitching prospects in their system, even with all of the injuries to kind of their more established veterans. But just, I mean, you cannot ask for a better start to the 2026 season for Didier, and now we'll just see how it translates to the real games.
Absolutely, and this is not my original comparison. I assure you, everyone's been saying this, so I'm not taking credit, but there are some clear Strider parallels with Didier and this approach, the stuff. You just mentioned having 2 pitches. That's what Strider had when he came up. He was mostly a 2-pitch guy. He had a great spring. He came up earlier than advertised. He was older than Didier is now, but if people may have forgotten this, Strider was a reliever his first, I think, 12 appearances, at least 10 or 12 appearances in Major League Baseball, and he worked his way up in this same way that Didier might be doing now. And like you said, I mean, I'm looking at it right now in the notes, 17 strikeouts and no walks and no hits. Like, what are we talking about here? I know it wasn't like all like he was facing Aaron Judge every plate appearance, but still, he was just ridiculous. And everyone, by the way, I got messages from people that don't normally message me about things, having like, what's going on with this Didier Fuentes guy? I'm like, well, he's really good is the answer to that question.
I mean, everybody did, even like fantasy baseball analysts. I'm not a huge fantasy baseball guy, but I follow a couple of accounts, and they were like, holy smoke, should this guy be on the radar for this upcoming year? And I mean, absolutely. And sure, you're right. You made a good point. A lot of Didier's appearances this spring came against more of like the B squad type of guys. He has not gone up against the Phillies opening day lineup or the Mets opening day lineup just yet. But those numbers speak for themselves. I mean, I think the lone blemish against Didier this spring was a hit by pitch. And other than that, he's been nearly perfect. The stuff is good. The velocity is up, which is both good and also a little scary, especially what we saw last year with like Spencer Schwanbach's velocity being up a bit as well. And then we know how that went. But it's really good to see. Presumably Didier was really serious in the weight room this offseason. He just looks bigger. He looks more physically mature, and his teammates have talked about he just seems more at ease and settled in. And even though the last handful of starts in last year did not go well for him, sometimes failure is not the worst thing in the world, and you can learn from it and hopefully grow.
For sure. And while Walt Weiss laid out the plan for him to go back to Gwinnett, I think there is a world where he does not, and maybe joins the rotation, or maybe even stays in the bullpen. I mean, that's possible too. I don't think that's probably the least likely scenario, but if he's the long man and gets into a game or two, and Weiss, there was a longer quote about how maybe he has to like throw 4 innings on a certain day because somebody leaves the game early. He does that once or twice in the first 2 weeks. It looks good. And it's like, hey, are we really going to have this guy go back to Gwinnett when he looks like this? It might I mean, I would say it's probable he goes back to Gwinnett at this point, given that they've said that's on the record as the plan. But he might just force himself in. He's already forced himself on the roster. Like, it's not that far-fetched to see him making a start in like May 1st. You know, it's not that far away.
Yeah, I was looking at Spencer Strider's game log. And again, I don't want to compare Didier as a 1-to-1 to Spencer Strider, because Strider. It's
just inevitable. You're right. I mean, we're not saying he's going to be that, because Strider was literally the best pitcher in the world there for like a year. So I'm not saying that's going to happen. Yeah. But the most recent comparison of the Braves is clearly to Strider as far as the stuff and the way they're handling him.
For sure. And in that 2022 season where Strider really established, he was out of the bullpen until I think about Memorial Day. And then he was just too good to ignore. And we'll see kind of what the plan holds and what the future holds for Didier. By pitching him out of the bullpen early in the year, if he really is Spencer Strider 2.0, it is nice that you would be able to limit his innings a bit in the early going with the idea that hopefully the Braves are in contention come August and September and October, then you probably don't want Didier throwing 200 innings this season. And if it means he spends 6 to 8 weeks in the bullpen and throwing, 4 innings a week instead of making 1 to 2 starts, it might help keep him fresher and just kind of keep his innings cap within a reasonable amount before you have to start having hard conversations down the stretch.
I'm looking forward to seeing him at a major league level again. I'm happy for him too. I mean, we covered it a lot at the time. There was a lot of unfair things being said about Didier Fuentes last summer that were kind of dismissive of his potential as a pitcher. Like, he was obviously not ready, but that wasn't his fault, and it is what it is. And I'm glad he's been awesome. It seems like a good kid by all accounts, and we'll get into all of that more when he's pitching. But that was certainly an encouraging piece of news from this week. I will give the caveat, just to be a reporter that I am sometimes. All of the stuff about this guy's going to make the opening day roster that was floating around the last 3 days, from Fuentes to these next guys we're talking about, it's reporting. It's not official because we're not there yet. Nothing has been named. Nothing has been announced. The Braves have not finalized the roster at this point in time, so that's a blanket caveat for all of this stuff. With that said, the Braves did not announce, but they did sign Dom Smith and Kyle Farmer to split major league deals that certainly indicate a plan for them to be on the opening day roster. And Ben Gamel got set down among those 3 veterans that were kind of battling for maybe 2 spots on the team. And then also, maybe a somewhat related thing, the Braves did sign Rowdy Tellez to a minor league deal on Friday. Tellez is a name you might have recognized. He actually had a 35 home run season in 2022, not that long ago, with the Brewers. But you actually mentioned this to me. Isn't he just like Dominic Smith in a different jersey? Like, they're basically not the same exact player, but there's like they're very similar profiles, like overall talent levels.
Yeah.
It's interesting that the Braves brought in another like pure first base DH only, but not a guy who's like clearly better than what they had already. It's just an interesting ad.
My guess is that Dom Smith will be with the Braves on opening day, and they will get Rowdy Tellez some regular at-bats in Gwinnett. And it's almost like a insurance policy on your insurance policy, because up until 3 weeks ago, they did not anticipate a real need for Dom Smith or Rowdy Tellez to be their, honestly, primary DH against right-handed pitching. Historically, pretty similar numbers for both Smith and Tellez. Both hit righties decently well. Not great hitters at this point, but they're serviceable. Could hold their own. If they're batting 7th or 8th in the lineup most nights, it's probably not going to kill you. And hopefully once the Braves get a bit healthier with Sean Murphy and Ha-Seong Kim, they have better options at DH and just more flexibility with the roster. Tellez does have more power, or at least the potential for more power, than Dom Smith. But at the same time, there's a reason that these guys were mostly just floating around and available in March, or I think late April was when Dom Smith signed. It is what it is, and it's the situation you're kind of handed. Unless the Braves pull a rabbit out of their hats 3 days before opening day, it feels like this is kind of what you're going to have until mid-May, when you get a little bit healthier with a couple of players coming back.
I forgot until this week that Smith used to play outfield a decent amount. I don't know if they would ever just stick him in left field and pray. I don't know if that's even on the table, but I just want to say that out loud. Like, he has played some outfield in the major leagues not that long ago. So Tellez is a pure first base DH. That's all he's ever going to be able to do. Whereas Smith could at least maybe stand in left field. Maybe an advantage there on something down the line. And Farmer plays basically everywhere. He's even caught in the major leagues. Not a catcher by trade, but he has done that. Like, I don't know if they're going to do that, but he's the emergency catcher. I can tell you that right away, probably. And he's literally played everywhere. Infield, outfield, middle infield, like everything. So he's 35 years old, was decent enough with Cincinnati, Minnesota earlier this decade. Certainly a fringy guy. That's what you're going to get this time of year, and we'll see. But I do think that, I give the caveat, but Smith and Farmer are likely to be on the opening day roster. Like, that's certainly the case. It's more of, if the Braves, somebody shakes loose this week and the Braves are like, we prefer this player to this player, that could happen. But if they don't bring anybody in, it's going to be Farmer and Smith, and questions answered that we were asking the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. I think especially, the first month or so of the season, I think the Braves are really going to be stretched thin on this bench. You don't have Murphy, you don't have Kim. You're kind of adjusting on the fly to not having Profar. God help us if another player gets hurt, then you're really going to be stretched thin. Yeah, it's going to be touch and go. It's unfortunate. And, we talked at the end of we'll call it the end of the transaction period of the offseason. It's like, hey, the Braves have some real depth here that we kind of like for the first time in forever. And of course, here we are. And we're kind of looking around and like, well, maybe somebody will get cut who's of interest. And I know there's a couple players who have been let go over the weekend. It's like, hey, maybe we want a hitter who's a little bit better against left-handed pitching. Let's acquire him for basically nothing and have him instead of Farmer on the bench to start the year. I think that's certainly within the realm of possibilities.
I agree. And we'll do a little bit of a quick look at the roster as it stands right now, the projected roster in a second, but that is the position player side of things. On the pitching side, Martin Perez is not going to make the big league roster coming out of camp, but he will be sticking around in Gwinnett by all of the reporting. It was not a given that he would stay with the Braves if he did make the opening day roster. So that's for me, that's more of the bigger note to say he's going to stick around. That could be useful depth if they need him in a plug-and-play situation. And he can go to the minors and give you that. And the other pitching news was that the Braves did send both Dylan Dodd and J.R. Ritchie down to the minors. Not shocking at all on either one, but I think we said, you and I, last time we talked, that Dodd was really the only relief-only option, like non-starting option that they could keep that wasn't like kind of almost a lock. And if they sent him down, that was like a showing their hand of what they were going to do, which is try to have as much length as possible in the bullpen and have 6.5 starters basically coming out of camp.
For sure. And if the Braves were in the World Series tomorrow, I have to think that Dylan Dodd would be in their 8-man bullpen to win one game, right? But it's a long season and Dodd had an option left. So because of that, he got squeezed off. But I promise you, we will see Dylan Dodd sooner rather than later this year. And then for J.R. Ritchie, a kid who did everything right this spring, again, it just comes down to a numbers game and who has options and who does not. It's a bummer that Ritchie wasn't able to find himself on the opening day roster, but hopefully he'll get a couple of starts in Gwinnett under his belt, continues to throw the ball well, and then will be an impactful piece for this team this upcoming year because, as we talked off the top, I mean, the need for Didier Fuentes and J.R. Ritchie to be effective contributors this season has really gone up.
Yeah, I think Ritchie will be up at some point. I am sure Dodd will be, barring injury and TBD. So we know that Alex likes to maximize versatility and optionality and pick whichever word you want to, insurance. And they've done that with the way they've aligned this roster to begin the season, at least on paper, as of this point in time. Okay, Scott, in a second, we're going to look ahead to what the roster projections all seem to look like. And they're a lot clearer than they were a couple of days ago on the podcast. Plus a little bit of a note on the suddenly scalding Austin Riley. I'm encouraged by that. We'll get into all of that and more after work from our partners.
This is it, Kratz. Opening weekend of the season. And if you're looking for tickets for an MLB game and they're either sold out or you're just a little bit lost and you need some help, SeatGeek is there for you. It's not just a spot where you buy the tickets. It's where you feel good about buying the tickets because they have your back with their features.
And you're going to get a good price. That's the deal that everybody's looking for. But especially early in the season up here in the Northeast, you kind of want to go to a day game where you're still going to be in the sun. It might shift during the summer, but hey, you know what? SeatGeek will let you know exactly where you're sitting and if it's a good spot to watch the game.
That's right. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. So look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad. And of course, we have a code for you. You can use code Territory10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code Territory10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later.
Okay, Scott. I will first mention I've been calling Mike Yastrzemski Babe Ruth for a couple of weeks now on this podcast. Perhaps that was misdirected because it should be Austin Riley, the way he's looked in recent days. Obviously, deep sarcasm font there, but Austin's been really good and looks really good, and I think we've all said it, but he's maybe, I don't want to say he's the most pivotal piece on the roster, but if he's the best version of Austin Riley, that solves a lot of issues. And in the spring, he has looked like the best version of Austin Riley, which has not been around for, 2.5 years? Like, he's been pretty good since then, but not the all-caps guy that we're hoping for if you're the Braves.
Austin looks terrific. And, I mean, honestly, most of the regulars have had a really good spring. And we'll take it, man. Like, there's no guarantee that continues over to when the games really count, but across the board, I think most of the Braves regulars have hit the ball really well, and Austin Riley and Mike Yastrzemski might be the two best examples of that. Riley hit a no-doubter off of Garrett Crochet over the weekend. I mean, launched it, and I think would have had another homer, but it bounced off the wall as well. Austin looks great. You mentioned about a 1350 OPS and 5 homers this spring and 38 at-bats. He just looks good. And Riley is such an important player for this lineup. I mean, man alive. He's probably going to hit third or fourth for this team. And the Braves need capital letters Austin Riley if this offense, which is probably going to have to pick up even more of the slack with the uncertainties around the starting rotation. Like, if the Braves are going to win a lot of games 7-6 this year, Austin Riley's going to need to be a big part of that.
Yeah, and you mentioned the regulars. We don't do a lot of game level coverage during spring training. We talk about stuff that pops, pitching, young guys, etc. But the Braves have been the best team in the Grapefruit League. They have the best record in the Grapefruit League. Run differential. Does this matter at all? I have no idea. But it is an indication between that and the individual stats. Because you're right. I mean, almost every single one of the regulars is having a good spring by the numbers. Yep. And you expect that to some degree. Like, I think Matt Olson is likely to look good against spring training pitching, right? Same with Ronnie, same with any of these guys. But it's good that they all look like that. I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's a data point you can file away. Even if you kind of eye roll it like I kind of am right now, it's not bad. It's not a bad thing to have your guys looking the way they're supposed to look, because you're right. I think they do need, we talked about it this winter a bunch, but every time we talk about the pitching staff, it's like, yes, you can go back to 2023 and say that team that won 100 plus games had a very ordinary pitching staff, and you'd be right. And the reason why they won 100 plus games is because they had this incredible all-time offense. And on one hand, you cannot project that kind of offense. They were incredible that year, like literally all-time great. But it is a reminder of what an awesome offense can do. It covers up a lot of sins. And the Braves have the ability, if everything goes well, and look, the likelihood of that over the last couple of years has been pretty low. But if everything goes pretty well or better with the offense, they can be a great offense. That's still in there, I believe. Yeah. Especially if Austin Riley is Austin Riley. So that's full circle. But if you got Austin and Ronnie and Matt Olson, who's awesome, and Drake Baldwin, who's awesome, cooking at the same time, there are not many teams that have 4 hitters like that. There just aren't. So there are ways to find some optimism, and I think that offense is maybe the place to find it right now, given the uncertainty with the pitching staff. So go on and hit everybody. I believe they're. Oh, I just checked this. They are also leading the Grapefruit League in runs scored. So championship banner, fly the banner right now, Scott. They're going to win the Grapefruit League, it seems like, and I'm okay with that.
There we go. Yes, right at Truist Park, you have the 2021 championship flag, and then right below it, you'll put the Grapefruit League champions 2026 for everyone to enjoy.
Listen, we all need something to hold on to, Scott. You know me. If people listen to the podcast for a long time, you'll know I'm not the most optimistic person in the world. You got to find something, man. It's been a trying time for the Atlanta Braves for the better part of a calendar year, and I'd like to just find some things that are positive. And I'm joking about Grapefruit League stuff, but it'd be cool if they would hit. And Austin Riley has been hitting, so sign me up for that.
Amen. Hit the baseball. I think you said it perfectly a minute ago. The top 4 in this lineup, I would put up against basically anyone. Acuna, Olson, Riley, Baldwin. That is as good 1 through 4 as there is in Major League Baseball. Mike Yastrzemski had a great spring. Hopefully he carries that over. And then you really gets into, what do you get from Michael Harris? What do you get from Ozzie Albies? What do you get from Sean Murphy? And when does Ha-Sung Kim come back? And how good is Ha-Sung Kim? And I mean, there are a lot of questions, but at least 1 through 4, maybe 1 through 5, I feel about as good as you can feel about a lineup here as we approach opening day.
We agree. On that point, as a bridge, we teased the opening day roster one more time. It is not official. It will not be official until at least Thursday.
I believe Wednesday. I think Wednesday.
Oh, because the league starts earlier. I forgot that season. The Braves are playing Friday, so I have Friday in my head. You're right. There is a cutoff deadline that it's earlier than that because there are games. So stay tuned for that. We'll have full coverage of when it happens. In the meantime, I think we know what it's going to be, unless there's an injury or a trade or a signing, that's 3 ors. So there's a lot of uncertainty, relatively speaking. But the starting 8 that they have available health-wise right now: Baldwin, Olson, Ozzie, Dubon, Riley, Yastrzemski, Harris, and Acuna is in stone. That's their top 8 right now, with Murphy and Kim unavailable. Then you have the bench, which got the certainty we talked about earlier. You got Heim as backup catcher. You got Eli White, Smith, Farmer, and Mateo. I would be shocked if it wasn't those 5. Do you have a hot take that's not that?
I hope they all perform well when called upon. And I also hope they are not called upon very much.
Somebody's got to look every single day early in the season. One of those 5 has to play. Eli White's had a nice couple of weeks, I think at least week, spring week. He's the most known by Braves fans. Eli White is a guy he's a good depth piece. He can run, all that stuff. The hitting, I'm not convinced about. He's got some pop in the bat if it works. I think Smith's probably the best hitter of those 5. That's not a high bar to clear, if I had to guess.
I will say, last season, about 200 plate appearances against right-handed pitching, Dom Smith carried a 119 WRC plus and
sign me up.
Yeah, mid-7s OPS. I think he hit 295. I mean, if you told me, I would probably bet the under on that with Dom Smith. But if you told me you got even close to that as your primary left-handed DH option, I mean, all day long and twice on Sundays.
All joking aside about Dom Smith, who is not incredible, he is a professional hitter. He'll go up and take good plate appearances. He can hit. He will not embarrass you. He's not going to be somebody that's just an automatic out. I don't mind him being in the lineup. I really don't. Eli White does other things better than him, obviously, but hitting probably isn't one of them, at least against righties. I really wish that Dom Smith was a reverse of his current platoon split, because Yastrzemski is the same side as Dom Smith. If those guys had a complementary skill set, it would be better, but beggars, choosers, etc. So that's the 13 player roster on the position player side, barring a surprise. Pitching wise, same kind of deal. We kind of know, even if we don't. Sale, Strider, Lopez, Grant Holmes, our guy, Bryce Elder, will be on the roster, barring a shock. And then Didier in the kind of hybrid role. They've said bullpen, but will they carry Jose Suarez? I think they're going to do that, and he's kind of a hybrid as well. They have 2 long men, basically, in Fuentes and Suarez, and 5 starters. I mean, they're trying to get as much length as possible. And I get it, because Lopez and Holmes, even Strider, are bigger risks to leave a game early than most pitchers are, I think. So
it will certainly be a day-by-day proposition. And, I wonder let's say the Braves do pitch Sale, Strider, Lopez, Holmes, and Elder in the first 5 games. I wonder in game 6 if they just have a set plan of, look, Didier Fuentes is going to take the ball and he's going to pitch until he can't pitch anymore. And then Jose Suarez is going to pitch until we get to the 7th inning. And then we will evaluate and see where the game is and say, we are getting 6 innings out of these 2 guys, no matter what. And if you're winning, then you manage the game like you're winning. And if you're losing 9-2, well, then someone's going to eat it. Probably Jose Suarez is going to eat it the rest of the way and just kind of get you home that way.
I agree. I mean, we will learn more about this as Weiss is undoubtedly asked about it, maybe even this week. But that 6th game will tell us a lot, I think, about how they're going to plan. Are they willing to have Chris Sale throw on regular rest early in the year? I don't know. We'll find out. Strider's the same thing. Lopez is the same thing. I mean, there's a lot of guys who might need an extra day. And if you get them all an extra day by getting through that game with some combination of Fuentes, Suarez, and the bullpen, wouldn't absolutely hate that. And we'll see what they do. Assuming that those 6 plus Suarez, so that's 7. And then you have the guys that we've been calling virtual locks in the bullpen for a while. Iglesias, Robert Suarez, Kinley, Payamps, Lee, and Bummer. Those 6 were always basically, unless they get hurt, they'll be on the team. And they're all healthy, knock on wood. So
yeah. Those guys all had nice springs for the most part. Aaron Bummer in particular, I don't believe gave up a run and had, I think I saw 6 strikeouts in 5 appearances. Small samples and all that, but a good sign, because Aaron Bummer can be an effective reliever when he is healthy and throwing the ball well. Hopefully he regains some of the velocity that he lost last year that I think really impacted his effectiveness. We know how good and how consistently good Dylan Lee has been whenever he's been up in the majors. And then on the right side, Iglesias and Suarez should give you just a lights out 8th, 9th inning combo. late in games to get you home. Tyler Kinley was a madman after the trade last year. And then Yoel Piamps, while coming off a down year with the Brewers, is throwing the ball well as well and seems to be healthy. So I feel really good about this bullpen group as a whole. There's also some live arms kind of waiting in the wings, and Gwinnett, who you could call upon at some point. I feel pretty good about, similar to maybe the top half of the lineup, I feel similarly good about this bullpen being really good, and hopefully the starters can at least get through 5 or 6 innings most nights and then give you a lead and you can get it home from there.
Yep, I feel good as I can possibly feel on Sunday, March 22nd, about the bullpen. So all signs point to get to the season, get through the Grapefruit League, come back from Florida, be healthy, and hit the ground running starting on Friday. So that's a show, Scott. We have talked a lot. We will do our customary, hopefully we will try to do at least our customary fire off some takes episodes, but you already heard some of that from Steven and Sean in the last few days. We have a special guest lined up. We won't announce who it is until it's been recorded in the can, but we have a special guest lined up, hopefully in the next couple of days. And then there'll be a game on Friday, and we should have a show post game for the first game of the year, I think is the plan. If you're new to the pod, we don't have a show every single night, but we do an average of 4 per week during the season. Occasionally, if we need to go 5 or more, we'll do it. And the first game of the year, we'll probably have a podcast. So between those two things, it's a great time to subscribe to the Hammer Territory podcast. I say that with obvious bias as one of the hosts of the podcast, but I actually do mean it. It's a great time to subscribe to an Atlanta Braves podcast. There's a lot going to be happening. We have fun doing the pod. We do work hard to make sure the pod is as good as it can be. But lock in. Apple, Spotify, YouTube. If you're a YouTube watcher primarily, we welcome you. Please also do us a solid and subscribe on audio platforms. Download there. Help us juice the numbers a little bit. I'm not ashamed to ask that. It's fine. If you're a audio listener, I am one of those, generally for podcasts, but I always like and subscribe on YouTube to shows that I'm trying to support as well. Comments, appreciated. Social media follows. Scott, am I missing anything at all? Oh, is there an update on Tournament Challenge, the Beat Brad Rowland Invitational? Am I winning?
Ooh, I don't think you are winning.
I'm not winning. I know I'm not winning.
I'm going to jinx it. My bracket's actually in pretty good shape here as we hit the 8 o'clock hour.
I was about to say, wait till it goes busto in the next 2 hours as we're recording this podcast.
Just you wait. Arizona loses, you will never hear from me again. But
folks, just to look behind the curtain at the end of the podcast, we are recording this at this particular hour. In the small event Arizona loses, I couldn't guarantee I could get Scott on the podcast. So that's why we're recording now, because I don't want to have to try to make Scott talk about the Braves at 11:30 after an Arizona loss in the round of 32. So
you would probably have to build an AI to get me to do an episode of pod with you, Brad, after that. But we're not going to have that happen. Hopefully the rest of the day of the tournament goes well. I hope everybody out there has enjoyed some basketball, and we said it off the top, but baseball is right around the corner. I know it has been a challenging, to put it lightly, a challenging spring training for the Braves, but there's still a lot of talent on this team. If you look at the projection models and like the win totals in Vegas, still projected to be one of the better teams in the National League. God willing, they have some good injury fortune coming their way and just some bounce back seasons from some really talented players. I'm ready to have baseball back in our lives. I think we all are. And it all gets started on Friday night and should be a fun time at Truist Park.
Absolutely. So lock in, subscribe, tell your friends. We'll be here all week with preview content. And then when things get going, we will have you covered throughout the 2026 season and beyond. So thank you for listening, everybody. We do appreciate it. And watching on YouTube if you're watching us on that platform. Thanks to Scott for being here. That's our show for today. And we'll see you all next time.